So First Shorenstein Properties is one of the oldest owners and operators of commercial real estate in the United States. Over 250 professionals employed. Now 10 closed-end funds with over $6 billion in assets under management and 23 million square feet. And then just to mention, the Green Committee is Shorenstein's sustainability group within the organization, and they're responsible for most of the initiatives that I'll talk about later. And then the Environmental Defense Fund is a nonprofit organization. They focus in 4 areas of environmental effort: the climate, oceans, ecosystems, and health. And then specifically to talk quickly about the Climate Corps program, this is an initiative, partnership between the Environmental Defense Fund and cities, universities, and companies to train MBAs and Master of Public Administration students to find energy efficiency savings at those organizations. And it's been a very successful program since 2008. They found more than $1 billion in net present value savings. These students, like myself, have over 1 million metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions reduction. And so these are the projects that have been identified, and probably the most impressive number here is that 86% implementation rate that as of the time of follow-up on these projects, 86% of the savings that's been identified has either been implemented or is underway. And Dana asked us earlier to reflect on why we were all here today. This headline is actually the reason, literally, that I'm here. Karen, who's here around somewhere, saw this headline in Climate Wire and got in touch with Shorenstein and with the Environmental Defense Fund and said, is anyone able to come and participate in this symposium? I raised my hand really eagerly and said, please pick me, I can do it. And so here I am. So just real quickly, I'm going to talk about 2 tenant engagement initiatives, sustainability initiatives at Shorenstein. The first is Green Leasing. The second, Tenant Engagement, and the Flip the Switch tenant tour that Shorenstein completed last fall. And then I'll just wrap it up with some challenges in the conclusion. So the first is Green Leasing, and this is an area that is really of interest to Shorenstein's property managers and the folks who do our leasing. We've taken most of our cues on green leasing from the BOMA Green Lease Guide, and so that's just an image there. A green lease formalizes the meaning of sustainability between owner and tenant. It creates sort of an official and legal basis for tenants and owners to come to agreement on what sustainability means and how it's going to be addressed in the property. Shorenstein's Green Lease, which again is developed from the BOMA Green Lease, focuses on these 8 areas, and won't go through them all, but I think there are more than 100 in total of these provisions that have been developed and are in the hands of our leasing professionals to work with tenants and eventually bring these into the lease portfolio. So just 2 that I'm going to talk about as examples. First is demand-only Saturdays. So typically in a lease, what happens is the building operator is responsible for turning the building on 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, for the entire day. I'm not exactly sure the hours offhand, but something like 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. probably. Well, on Saturdays, who's in the office? Probably a few people for a few hours, but the building has to be on that whole time by the lease agreement. So one of the things that we're working on is, well, if it's not needed, can we turn the building off on those Saturdays, save that energy, and pass the savings on to the tenants via lower operating cost. The next is energy efficiency alignment. So this deals with the split incentive problem in commercial real estate, where the building owner is responsible for making the investment in capital improvements that would reduce energy use, but the tenant pays the utility bill. Not usually directly, but it's a cost that's passed on to the tenant. So there's a fundamental disconnect there when we're talking about trying to improve the performance of these buildings on energy. So the energy efficiency alignment allows the owner to recover the capital investment cost of an energy efficiency upgrade, making it more feasible to do that. So say we need to upgrade the HVAC system. It's going to cost $100,000. Realize $20,000 of energy savings. So over the 5 or 6 years, the landlord will recover the energy cost, probably pass some of that energy savings on to the tenant, depending on how exactly the lease provision is structured. But then at the end of that time, the tenant realizes all of the energy savings beyond that recovery of capital. Some of the challenges, again, just in the interest of time, I won't go through them all, but one of the key ones here is the belief that green operations is more costly, and I think everyone in this room probably recognizes that there's a link between sustainability and actually operating efficiency, but not everyone realizes that, and so that's a real mental barrier that we're working on overcoming with this concept of bringing green lease provisions into the leases with tenants. So next is tenant engagement, and I'm going to talk about a flip the switch tour. Now this is a presentation tour that Shorenstein rolled out last fall between September and October. All of Shorenstein's tenants and all of our properties were invited to attend these presentations. And the focus here was on energy efficiency. Talked a little bit about some of the other sustainability issues around water and waste and so forth, but the real focus was on energy efficiency and focusing on the basics. We identified savings areas in 3 kind of buckets: the low cost, easy to do things like T12 retrofits to T8s, or changing out CFLs, or some of the simpler low cost things. These were the light green strategies. A little bit darker green would have been something like putting in motion sensors in a conference room. And then a deeper green, sort of advanced opportunity that maybe a tenant would do with a retrofit opportunity, something like putting in a full lighting control system for their space. We didn't really get into those a lot, is my understanding. That really the basic issues were what tenants were interested in. One of the biggest problems identified was with computers, turning them off in the evening. It seems like an easy thing to do, but the reality of the behavior and the way people think about how their computers are important and an efficiency tool for them, well, they don't want to turn them off because the IT department puts updates out every evening and the computer won't be updated if I don't leave it on, or it takes too long to boot up in the morning. I don't want to spend 10 minutes waiting for it to boot up. So, just talking through some of the issues that tenants were concerned about on that particular point. Well, maybe you can flip the computer on, go get your coffee, chat with your neighbor, and then your computer's booted up by the time you get back to your desk. So those are the sorts of things that were important engagement conversation points coming out of this, this Flip the Switch tour. And then in addition to this, Shorenstein rolled out its sustainability website, which was designed specifically for tenants to provide them with information about either creating or enhancing their own sustainability programs for their organizations. And generally, the tenants that we have are not, their key focus is not sustainability. That's not their job, right? Their job is to do something else, not really be concerned with the energy use of their building. So as much as we can make it easy for them, provide them with resources, materials, and external references to develop their own sustainability programs, I think that's makes it easier to get that out to the tenants. So, and I sort of touched on this challenge already, that the real, the biggest issue coming out of this tour and the feedback that we received was that the tenants just don't have the time and expertise to really be concerned about the sustainability of their operations, about how much energy they're actually using. And then that coupled with the fact that in many cases, the spaces are not sub-metered, given the infrastructure of the building. And so the energy savings that they may realize don't necessarily pass on to them directly. So those are some of the key challenges in tenant engagement and some learning points that we've had coming out of this. So in conclusion, I've got two conclusion slides here. First, just on the Shorenstein sustainability tenant engagement. There are a lot of barriers out there, institutional, behavioral, perceptional, that we've identified coming out of this. And I think there's a lot of learning. I'm actually going back to work at Shorenstein this summer as a Climate Corps Fellow again. And part of my responsibility will be following up on the feedback coming out of this, this tenant tour. And then last, the Environmental Defense Fund's Climate Corps program. This year there are almost 100 Climate Corps Fellows. In 2008 there were 7. The program has grown really rapidly. It'd be really exciting to see how much savings come out of this year's round of fellowships. To make a little plug for the program, there are several real estate participants in this year's group of Climate Corps host companies and organizations. Listed here are a number of them, not only in the private commercial sector, but also public sector, residential. So if anyone here thinks that this might be an interesting program, feel free to follow up with me afterward. And with that, thank you. Any questions? We can just move on to the latter part of the evening.